All right, recording. What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back again with another Tottenham update for you guys. And Ben isn't around tonight, so you're going to have to put up with Ashmatic for today's big video. Big up to you, Ashmatic. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, bro, I'm good, man. I'm outside, as you can see. I'm ready to go. Lots of news to get on with.
All right, and obviously we'll start with the big news coming out from Fabrizio Romano tonight, and that is regarding David Raya. He says Tottenham are now on the verge of reaching agreement with David Raya on personal terms. Long-term contract almost agreed after positive talks. Raya open to Spurs move, but club talks will be crucial. 40 million fee asked by Brentford is considered too high. So I think one of the stumbling blocks for this deal was going to be personal terms, because people thought maybe he's going to go to Man United, maybe other teams are going to come in for him. So him agreeing personal terms with Tottenham is pretty significant. But where do you think the price point is going to be with Brentford, considering they've already signed a keeper backup, to replace David Raya? So they do have to sell him. So what kind of price are you thinking Tottenham are thinking about?
Oh, Tottenham, yeah. Tottenham are looking cheap as possible. We're looking like 20 million, probably plus add-ons. So maybe like 20 million plus, I don't know, 6 million in add-ons. I don't know. Spread across how many seasons? Do you know what I mean? Depending on what competitions we do well in. And you know how they work. You know how they work.
How much do you think he's worth?
You know what? I think he's a quality keeper, considering that he's done the most saves in the league. I would say at least, you know what? If he didn't have 1 year on his contract, I would say about 40 million. I would. But because he's got 1 year left, it just changes the game, in my opinion. So I think Spurs are trying to wiggle it way down to below 30 million. But I think he's worth around 30 million. It's not easy to come across a quality keeper that's like a modern day keeper as well.
Yeah, and he's good age, 27 years of age, coming into his prime, especially for a goalkeeper. He's playing really, really well at Brentford, has Premier League experience, can play the way Postecoglou wants to play. And it's going to be an important first signing, as Lloris has been our goalkeeper for so long. To have that replacement as one, especially early in the window, would be something very significant for Postecoglou, I think. And I think he would be a very good signing to have Raya. I'm being very impressed with him at Brentford. We've been calling for him on this channel for Tottenham to be serious about him, and it seems as though they are. So that's really, really good, and I think it'd be a good signing for him. Are you happy with it if that was to be the case, if Raya was our goalkeeper?
Yeah, I think he's got one of the best win percentages in the league, 77%. And when it comes to like kicking out, delivering like from the goal, he's quite accurate as well. So you can get to attacks. You can start their counter attack really quick. And also when it comes to like teams pressing us, that's quite helpful as well. So he's got that kind of attributes, delivery, and also from corner kicks as well. From what I've seen anyway, he looks pretty good on corners. He comes and collects, and I know Lloris was a bit weak on certain crosses into the box, certain corners. So I like a keeper that can command the box, and he seems to be good. Even when we looked at him as well, when we played him, I thought he looked pretty. Even though he injured himself, actually, I thought he got injured and he was going to come off, but he just managed to carry on, and I thought he had a good game against us.
Yeah, 100%. And he tipped a Richarlison head onto the post. I remember later on it was a brilliant save. And you said that point about the stats. He's got the highest save percentage. So he's got the most saves in the league and the highest save percentage in the league as well, which has to be an impressive stat when you put those two together. So he saves a big percentage of a lot of shots essentially coming at him, and that's also coupled with, as all the other stuff we mentioned, good with his feet, good coming for crosses. I mean, I think he's just a great keeper, so I think it would be a fantastic replacement for Hugo Lloris. But let's move on to the James Maddison news. Sky Sports News are claiming that Newcastle are currently leading the race against Tottenham in the race signed James Maddison. Scott Wilson of the Northern Echo says Tottenham are understood to have opened preliminary talks with Leicester for the Leicester board with a potential deal for James Maddison. So they're saying something could be advanced. And I think the London Evening Standard is saying that Postecoglou really rates Maddison and thinks he could be a vital cog in the new system. Obviously, so it looks like Newcastle might be stealing ahead in this kind of race to sign him. But do you reckon we have a good chance of getting in there ahead of them?
It all depends on the perception of the player from the club. Like, as in, does he see Tottenham as a bigger club than Newcastle in terms of what we've done in the past? Because obviously right now they've got Champions League football and we've got absolutely no Europe and we finished 8th. And it depends if he looks at us in a club in turmoil, or now we've got a coach in we're on the way up. Like it depends if like the project is sold to him, and if he believes in that project. Because I remember when Newcastle got Bruno Guimaraes, I didn't think he was going to go there, but all of a sudden, like the project was sold to him, and they weren't in Europe either. And then all of a sudden they went. I know the difference is that they had got billionaire owners, but I guess what do we have? A stadium, training facilities. Some players might buy into that. I don't know. Me personally, as Spurs fans, because we're like so over at the moment, we're like, yeah, come on now, like that's dead. but you know what I mean? I'm just trying to clutch at straws right now. I don't know.
London?
Maybe. Yeah, his wifey, the wife might want to go to Harrods. She might want to go shopping in Westfields. She might, I don't know, Central. I don't know. That's Croydon. But yeah, no, she might want to do some London shopping. Who knows? So compared to Newcastle, obviously nightlife, but they're of the age where they're not young anymore. I don't think that will kind of get them up like excited. Like there's nothing to do in Newcastle. If you're like a youngster and you're single, it's different. Like for like a Grealish would be different. If Grealish was going, it'd be like, yeah, Newcastle. But Maddison, to me, I don't know. He might be able to. His wife might be able to bend his arm and say, "Yo, we're going to London."
But how vital do you think a player like Maddison would be for Postecoglou and how he wants to play?
For me, personally, he's key. I can't get over this more. Like an attacking midfielder are very rare. They're very rare at the moment. It's almost like a dying art. I can't name many attacking midfielders, especially in the Premiership, that have done it at this level, of this quality, that's done it this long. I remember before he actually came to the Premier League, he was at Norwich. He scored an impressive 17 goals at Norwich in the Championship and 10 assists. So how can you beat that? And then obviously the season that's just gone and the season before that, he's got like a combined goals and assist contribution of 20. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to find that easy. Even if you look around Europe, it's going to be very hard to find that type of quality in that position. And he's not only that he can play attacking midfield, he can play the modern way as a winger. Do you know what I mean? So he can play either left wing or right wing. He can actually play as a right midfielder. I've seen him play in a double as a central midfielder as well. So he can play a multitude of roles. But I feel like attacking mid, when he's centrally, that's when he's got his most assists. And the fact that he can shoot from outside the box, a lot of his goals were from outside the box or maybe just inside the box. Well. But it's the distance, exactly that as well. So, like for me, if we're looking for an attacking mid and someone that can add a bit of creativity, then Maddison's your guy. Definitely. I think I see him as a natural 10.
It's part of the reason why me and Ben had a discussion a couple of days ago. I asked him the question: if we could spend, let's say, over 30 million only on 2 players, and out of a centre back, goalkeeper, and let's say a Maddison, you had to pick only 2 of those 3. Like which positions would you pick? And I said I'd pick Maddison as one of the players because, as much as I think a centre back is a more pressing issue than centre mid, I agree with that. I don't think we're going to find another Maddison so easily for 50 million or so. They're so hard to find. Whereas a centre back, yes, we could spend over 30 million on one and maybe get the first one we want. But there's centre backs you can get for less than 30 million who could do the job for us. Maybe not the perfect fit. You might have to upgrade on them in the future. But there are definitely centre backs you can get to do the job. You can't get another Maddison so easily. They're dozen. So they're hard to find. So I think we need to really push the belt out and try and get him. But it's going to be difficult to prize them away from Newcastle.
Both-footed as well.
Both-footed, set-piece specialist. I think he ticks a lot of boxes and he's versatile. So
yeah,
some of question though, could he do? Is he physical enough to do the physical side of what Postecoglou wants, pressing-wise? I guess that is a bit of a concern, but I think the quality might overshadow that.
Yeah, I think so as well. And the players around him are going to help him out. I think whoever's in that role, I think the players around them, they're going to help that particular position because we're going to be higher up the pitch. And if the ball comes back to him quicker, do you know what I mean? What's a small press? Because Eriksen wasn't a physical type of guy, was he? He was quite like in stature and builds. He wasn't like
did the running. That was important.
He did the running. Yeah, he did do the running. Yeah, I agree.
But moving on, Ange Postecoglou obviously has been appointed. This has been his first week in charge. He has been on holiday, but he did stop in at Hotspur Way. And Alistair Gold had a bit to say on his visit. He said there's been a generally positive reaction so far within the club to the appointment of Postecoglou among staff and players, as many have reached out and spoken to those who have worked under the 57-year-old previously. He also says that Postecoglou is set to make the final say on whether the club makes a loan move for Longley or Danjuma, or makes it permanent, sorry. Postecoglou and Spurs are now in the process of making decisions on how to improve the squad this summer and which players will stay or leave to facilitate desired change. That's from Sky Sports. And Dan Kilpatrick says, Postecoglou has held talks with the chairman, Daniel Levy, about plans for next season. I'd also like his Celtic number 2, John Kennedy, to join him at Spurs, who he managed before. And Ryan Mason is expected to be part of Postecoglou's coaching staff after he impressed him during their recent meeting. That's also according to Ali Gold. So he's making a bit of an impression. He does have a lot of big decisions to make, doesn't he, Postecoglou? He has to make them quickly with pre-season coming. How much movement do you anticipate for you with the incomings and outgoings before pre-season? Do you see a lot of movement, or do you see a lot of the maybe moves rumbling on throughout the summer, and a bit of being similar to a lot of other Tottenham windows where we get to August and we're still kind of all over the place?
I think because of what happened last season, there was so much turmoil. I think with the board being called out, I think with Levy's name being chanted by home and away fans, it's been a lot of bad press. And the fact that we're outside of Europe, the board can't stand to be outside of Europe. So I think that's when they react the quickest and the most. I think already we're hearing a lot of links compared to last season. I know, like last season it was July, it all kicked off. This season it's June already. Season's hardly ended. Champions League's just finished, and already like we're talking about agreeing, personal terms, etc., or getting things done behind the closed doors. So I anticipate a lot. What I like about Ange, or from what I've read about him, is that he doesn't get too personal with people, kind of keeps his distance, and that works to his advantage. Not only does he get respect of people because he keeps his distance, but he also is able to make clear and objective decisions without having an emotional side to him. So he's able to say, I need to get rid of X, Y, Z from far away, and he does what's best for the team. And he says, I need A, B, C, and D to come in. So I think if the club are to fully back him in that sense, then there'll be a lot of movement, because in his last job, I think he got rid of over 10 players and brought in over 10 as well.
He's got previous for a number of jobs, bringing selling a lot of the experienced players or players who've been there a long time and bringing a new crop of players. He's done that even in Australia. I remember with Brisbane Raw, I read about it when he first went in. Some of their key players, Craig Moore was a very experienced centre-back. He had Premier League experience, Craig Moore, and he got rid of him and brought in his own kind of set of players. Danny Tiato, who's playing the Premier League, he got rid of him as well. Like a lot of these players, when he goes into clubs, even the national team, there was a lot of older players which he stopped playing, like a lot of the golden generation, and he stopped playing them and brought in a younger set of Australian players. So he's definitely got form for that. And that's exactly what's going to be needed at Tottenham, a big refresh.
So that's what I think, Sim. I think, right, if they brought him in for that reason, they would have known that he's done that. And so if they're going to make him work, and if they're bringing him for a particular reason, and they want to like get youth in and have, this project, because I heard Levy talking about academy and all this type of stuff. So surely that conversation has happened, and that's one of the reasons why they've brought him in. In my head, that's what I'm thinking. Logically, that must make sense. So if he doesn't get rid of more than, I don't know, four or five players, then I'm like, what's going on here? Are they stepping back on their word, or it's not all kind of marrying up together?
It's going to be a big summer ahead for Tottenham. It's going to be so interesting who we decide to keep, who we leave, who decides to leave, and who we sell, and who gets a second chance under him, who looks like a different player under him. I think it's going to be all very interesting, and nothing is more uncertain right now than the future of Harry Kane. And we'll go on to Kane now. And according to Gary Jacob and Jonathan Northcott, the Times, they say that Man United are increasingly resigned to the prospect of being unable to land their principal transfer target, Tottenham's Harry Kane. And that's a large reason because they don't want to deal with Daniel Levy. They think that it will be impossible to get him out of Tottenham. Obviously, we've spoken about the Madrid potential move. Do you think there's probably a bigger chance of him going to Madrid, because Tottenham probably more likely to deal with that? But do you see a Man United transfer this summer is even feasible? Do you think there's any possibility he goes there?
I personally think that Levy's stubborn in the sense of he doesn't want to sell to a rival. And we saw it before with Man City. It would have taken a real big figure for him to kind of even consider a move. Even though Kane wanted it, I still think he was digging his heels down. And we've seen in the past with players like Berbatov and Carrick, Like United have had to move heaven and earth to get those players. He was really reluctant to sell to them, but it was always for astronomical fees. And then I look at Real Madrid. Even with Real Madrid, it was the same situation with Gareth Bale. It was always a massive, massive fee that took Levy to act on it. So I can't see him changing his tune all of a sudden, even though Kane's situation is slightly different to the others with 1 year left. I know he did down tools against Man City as well. But I just don't think it's about Kane. I think it's a lot to do with Levy. I think Levy is happy to kind of see him run his contract out and gamble on, Postecoglou coming good and us having a better season, and then trying to renegotiate terms and deals with him and have a clause on the contract at the end of the season for Kane to sign if he wanted to make that move. But this is football at the end of the day. I'm not ruling out anything. Real Madrid obviously got rid of Benzema, which is their main striker. They've come out and said they want a player that can link the play and score goals. Kane just ticks all the boxes. It just makes a lot of sense to me. Everyone's, well, not everyone, it's mainly Spurs fans think, Kane will stay for his, goal scoring record. But at the same time, when you've got a chance to play with the best, and win a league title, he still has time, as we said before, to come back and complete that goal scoring record if he wants to, in a couple years time or a few years time, in my opinion. So Real Madrid is not out of the question. I don't think at all. I personally think that Kane hasn't come out even before even before when we were after the World Cup, we were trying to do a deal that Kane could sign. It kept dragging on. I remember February, March. Any deal, any sign of Kane signing, quiet. Season's over, still quiet. Nothing's come out from Kane's camp. So that to me is not saying hey, I want to be here. It's not screaming,
Do you read anything into the fact that Tottenham have made him front and centre of the kit launch? Usually the player's definitely going to leave. The clubs avoid doing that. So maybe that's a sign of, at the moment, nothing's really close to him leaving.
Gareth Bale was on the kit launch before he left to go Real Madrid. So it means absolutely nothing. The way I see it, the way I see it is, if you're going to sell shirts and that's your player, come on, you're going to keep your main asset in there. It just makes business sense to kind of get as many shirt sales. You're not going to obviously, even if they were looking to sell him, it wouldn't make business sense to not put him on a kit launch, because then it shows obvious intent that he might leave, or it might start flaring up questions, and then Real Madrid might be able to lowball the price. Do you know what I mean? So if you think you want to kind of put the air on that, he's not for sale, he's not going nowhere, for them to kind of bid a little bit higher to get the best possible price for him. So I don't read anything into this.
If they sell too many Kane 10 shirts, they're going to have to issue a lot of refunds, probably.
Yeah, for real. I didn't even look at it like that. He said, look, we had no intention of signing him. All of a sudden, they'll market it so that, Kane wasn't happy, he was very sad. And he's put out a statement to say he apologized to the fans, he's going to miss them. Yeah. They're good at PR like that.
Exactly. Moving on, Evan and Deca, apparently, according to Fabrice Hawkins, a journalist out in France, he says that Deca is set to sign for Roma on a free transfer, but there is also after Tottenham had come into contact with him and tried to sign him. But it looks like he is going to go to Roma. One we probably missed out on. It's probably a shame we didn't go a bit harder for him, because free transfer, a young defender. Could we have maybe gone toe-to-toe with Roma to try and get him in?
You know what, Sim? I feel like this might be a theme of the window going on. It might be a player we were trying to get, and then all of a sudden we lose out to another club. And the reason why I say that is because it's happened so many seasons before. We used to call ourselves Interested FC. Do you know what I mean? We're interested, or we're linked, or holding talks. Sometimes we're good at getting the personal terms done, but then when it comes to actually getting the job, getting that player over the line from the club's point of view, doing business with other clubs, that's when we collapse. Time and time I've seen that. We've seen so many players that slip through our hands. So I'm not gonna lie, that whole Deca thing, if we wanted to go harder, we were serious, we would just slap the money down on it, not the money, but we'd make it happen. We'd just make it happen. And Deca's on a free, I forget. So imagine that, it's even worse. So if we were really serious, we would have made him an offer and we would have sold him a project. But I think because the whole turmoil at the time with no manager, no director of football. Do you know what I mean? Still no director of football as well. So
Yeah.
how about that? Like it's I just feel like it's gonna happen time and time again. We're gonna see so many players that could have come to Spurs slip through the window, and it's gonna be very frustrating for Angelo. Do you know what I mean? What do you
Yeah,
think?
I agree. No, I agree, and I hope that it's not a theme of the window. I mean, it's been a theme already where managers have been rejecting us, but I'd hope there's not a theme that players as well. Hopefully, Ange can show what he's about and what kind of how he wants to play and how he's going to change Tottenham. There's too many questions at the moment. If a player signs, is he going to be signing with Harry Kane play? Who's staying at Tottenham? Who's
I
going? What
think
kind
this
of?
is a stumbling
The
block.
question is, do these people know what kind of Tottenham they're walking into? They don't really right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of the Tottenham they signed for could be completely different to the Tottenham that ends the transfer window. And that's the truth because we don't know what the squad's looking like. So due to all that uncertainty, it's going to be very difficult for players to make that decision early on. I think maybe that's why it could take till late in the window to get players through the door who we really want. But look,
Sim, but surely,
David
Sim, when Postecoglou came through door the other day to Hotspur away, they would have sat down, they would have spoke about transfers, they would have named their targets, and then from there we should just be moving ruthless. We should just be like, all right, this is what the manager wants. Let's do everything in our power. Let's start putting in the bids. So the bids are done because
Ash, those things take time, don't they? They take time. So he has
they
to
do
assess the
take
squad.
time.
So that's what I'm saying. All these other clubs, that time they're not wasting doing that. They've already settled. They know from the end of last season what they're doing. He has to spend the time assessing the squad. Then he has to say what he wants. Then we have to see if we can get it. And then we have to what makes as well. We don't know which ones we're going to get and which ones we're not going to get. So when we're going to players, they don't know what point they're walking in at Tottenham right now. It's like
So do you mean like in terms of a pre-season? He needs to see them in a pre-season, see them in training,
yeah,
and then make that decision, as opposed to being objective and looking at past videos and seeing how they played and saying, you know,
there's only so much you can do with that kind of research, and he'll probably want the players to have as much information as possible, and that is definitely part of that is having them in person, seeing it with your own eyes, the training sessions. I'm sure he'll want to give the players that chance, but I'm sure there will be some players where he'll have to make it. Like the club are going to force him to make a decision before.
Surely as well, there's been a conversation to say like who wants to be here and who doesn't want to be here, because obviously they're doing a tour very soon, and then you could just eliminate players straight away that, you know, like for example, Brian Hill, he lifted the cup with Seville. You know, he may be homesick. He might have enjoyed that season. It's his second season, not second season, but second term, you know, like on loan. So is that something we can kind of act on straight away? Like, so I'm talking about things like that where you know you've got a position that is definitely free. Like, you know that right wing's not 100% secure, and we could potentially go in for a player, because let's face it, that's where a lot of goals, a lot of creativity will happen. It's going to be from our wings. It's going to be from those positions where we can score goals. We don't want to be relying on a certain character or a certain player that may or may not be there. So let's get those other positions sorted out as soon as possible. And I think as fans, or for me personally, it's very frustrating that it feels like the same thing every window. Like I've been here before. Do you know what I mean? So that's my take on it.
No, I don't disagree with that, and I agree. I agree. It's very frustrating being a Tottenham fan right now, where constantly there's change and upheaval, and there's no stability at the club, and that's why we're always in these kind of situations that we are right now, where there's so much work to do, and the uncertainty doesn't help when you're trying to recruit or anything like that, and we just seem to be constantly in that state recently of just uncertainty. But moving on. The Daily Star claiming that Tottenham are lining up a surprise move for Man United attacker Jadon Sancho this summer. According to the Daily Star, the Red Devils could charge up to about 50 million after he struggled to make an impact at Old Trafford. Jadon Sancho for 50 million, are you taking that, or do you think he hasn't done enough at Man United to show you that he is that kind of player?
It's a hard one, because when he came in with Ronaldo, and he came in under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So Ole was at the wheel. You know how bad United were with Ole at the wheel, and then obviously I think it got even worse when Rangnick got in charge. So then you've got a manager and an intern boss where, you know, things aren't going as well as possible. He's got a lot of expectations. It's a massive club, Man United, And when things aren't going right and you're not quite getting into the team, it might affect him mentally, because at the end of the day, he's still a kid, you know, let's not forget that. He's still a young player learning his trade. I know he had a massive season in Dortmund. I think it was like 3 seasons where he just had crazy numbers. Like I think it was 20 goals in 2020, like no pun intended, but and like mad assists as well, like 16 or 10 assists.
He's ripping up
unheard of. Unheard of. But like even if he came to United and he scored half of that, 10 goals and like 8 assists, or 10 goals and 7 assists, like that's still mad in the Prem. And he wasn't producing that, even in terms of like his take-ons, that reduced as well. That went down. I think he was like 5 in the Bundes, went down to 2.1 or 2.3 in the Prem. And then also after Ragnick left, he had to have another new coach in Ten Hag, and that was like another system that he had to kind of get used to.
But we have seen how like Rashford's like really thrived under Ten Hag. So why can't the same be for Sancho? Why is he struggling?
So my thing is, some players are just better in certain positions, and I know people say he can play on both wings, but I feel like his possession is the left wing. I'm not gonna lie, Rashford excelled in the left wing, and I felt like Sancho scored those crazy goals on that left hand side. I know he featured on the right, but I thought predominantly he was on the left. Can play in the middle as well. So that could be the reason why that may not have worked out for him. Because remember, they bought Anthony as well. So what do you do? You're second place to Anthony. Garnacho starts turning up when Rashford's not playing, then Garnacho's getting the nod ahead. And that might affect him mentally. He needs to be the number one guy, like playing week in, week out. He needs to be a club that kind of loves him and pushes him. And then you might see the Sancho of Dortmund, especially if that attacking style suits him. Because a lot of time, when Ten Hag first came, he got a shock to the Prem. Remember, the first 3 games didn't go too well.
Yeah.
So that attacking style, he had to switch it up. So certain times United were dropping behind the ball. They weren't playing attacking football. And then when the team was settled, then he could kind of go back to his attacking style. So you got to put that into consideration as well. So, but I think really, Sim, confidence is a massive thing. I won't discount that. But Corin, yeah.
If United came in with a bid, 50 million plus Sancho for Harry Kane, are you accepting that bid?
The money's crazy. I can't go for the money. I'm going to lie. 50 mil is mad. But I would take it. I would take the punt. I think he's still young. And if we're going to play him, week out, I would take him. I've just seen what he did at Dortmund was just crazy enough for me to get convinced that he's the man that could do a job at Spurs. I know we've got Sonny in that left-hand position. Like, where would he fit? But I believe in the kids.
I would take him and make Son number 9.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear that. Put Son number 9. Put Son number 9. Make him left.
Solution. Yeah, put him on the left. Son number 9.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That left winger already. Yeah. If I was going to invest in a winger, he could maybe do it if we get his confidence up, and then Son goes moves position.
Yeah, because Son plays on the shoulder now. Son's on the shoulder. He's not a winger like that anymore. I feel like he plays on the shoulder more, and I think a winger in Sancho would make more sense. Like,
do you reckon United will offer that? United will offer that? No, they're probably not.
I don't know, because like at the back end, he came back. Remember, he suffered with confidence issues, and then Ten Hag sent him away. He said, "Look, go and work on yourself." He made him train by himself, and then since he came back, he was a different player. I think he managed to get like 4 goals and 3 assists. I think towards the end of the season, so it was like an upturn. So I think in total he got 6 goals, and I can't remember how many assists he got, but I think he was better than Kuli's return. Do you know what I mean? And he played far many less games than him, so makes no sense. It's a no-brainer to me. It's a no-brainer.
Fair enough. Last but not least, Levy has Tottenham actually on their website posted the meeting notes of a meeting they had with the new fan-led advisory board, and the fan advisory board were able to put questions to the hierarchy, and they were able to respond with answers. And one of the questions was about backing managers and about how if they feel like they can adequately back Postecoglou as they have, like maybe they haven't the other managers. They said, Daniel Levy said himself, the notion that Tottenham haven't backed certain managers is incorrect. We're currently paying the price, perhaps where some of the acquisitions have not turned out to be as we hoped. So that's what they say about backing managers. Do you agree that the notion they haven't backed managers is incorrect? Are they blameless to how their big money signings haven't made an impact? Some of them.
The whole thing stinks. I can't lie to you, man. These men are having absolute howlers day in, day out. I just can't. I'm not. Some people might believe it. Me, I believe it when I see it. Like, if it was on an Insta Live and like a couple people could vouch for the people that were on the fan board, advisory, whatever you want to call it, then I can say, yeah, all right, cool, we're moving in the right direction. But I feel like, again, this is like controlled opposition, you know, like they're trying to look like they're doing the right thing. I think it's just PR, to be honest with you. Backing the manager, everyone's like, oh, what does that mean? We all know what it means, isn't it? Because we've gone past the whole money thing. We all know we spent the money. But if we're fully like gonna get behind a manager, you have no footballing say. You just, you know what I'm saying? You say, look, if you want to be clear with the fans, say, look, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. We've only got 100 mil to spend. 100 mil to spend, that's all we can spend. But guess what? That's all for the manager. That's what we made last year. This is what we made, you know, compared to last season. This is the money, this is the pot, here it is. It's all transparent, you know, and they communicate that with the fans as well to say, like, this is how much. Then there'll be no argument, because then we'll be like, all right, cool, we got. But now fans are arguing like, oh, we can't spend 50 million or 40 million on Maddison because how much left do we have for defenders? But who's to say we don't have more money? So then there's still the debate to say, has the manager been backed? They haven't come out and made it crystal clear. You see what I'm saying, family? It's not making sense. So just be clear, come out to the fans and just have a chat. No behind closed doors and we don't know who these fans or who the board is. I don't know. You might know, but I'm just saying how I see it. Yeah.
But for me, like the answer just smacks of not taking any responsibility for how things have turned out. Yes, some big money signings haven't turned out as we would hope, like Ndombele and Lo Celso, but they have to take responsibility for why they've not worked. Since Ndombele came to Spurs, we've had 4 different managers. The manager he signed for was sacked after 10 games, and we switched up our way of playing from a very high pressing attacking style to a very defensive, low block, pragmatic style. And that's not going to suit players like Ndombele and Lo Celso. And there's been lots of changes in managers. There's been no stability. No manager has started and finished a season for 4 seasons since 18-19. It's not happened, and they've switched the styles on these players. So when you sign players with big money and you put them in all these circumstances, you have to take some responsibility for why the signings haven't worked. So I don't think they can just sit there and saying perhaps some of the acquisitions haven't turned out as we'd hoped. It's like, well, that's partly your fault, and you're not really taking acknowledgement for that. They're just saying we've backed our managers, and it's not our fault when signings don't work. It's like they have to come out and acknowledge that they're part of why a lot of these players haven't been able to sell what Tottenham and perform.
And also, Sim, I think like that whole club signing thing, that for me is a mess, an absolute howler. Again, like you can't have players coming in that the club, who is the club? Is the club the chairman? Is the club the board? This club signing is weird. And then you've got the manager signings. Like last season, I felt like it was a manager signing. There was the director of football signing. And then there was the club signing. I thought like there was 3 different types of signing. What is like, and that's the reason why it's kind of hard to say like, oh, the board or the club are backing the manager. That's what I mean. Like there needs to be absolute clarity, and that needs to be communicated to the fans. And that's the only way fans can kind of unite and kind of say, look, this is what it is. It's X, Y, Z. There's no hypothesis, you know, A equals X, Y, Z. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Everything is just 1, 2, 3. It's black and white. There's no gray areas. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, for me, it's too muggy. It's too murky.
I agree. But Ash, great to speak to you as always. Appreciate your time on this Tottenham update. Let me know in the comment section below anything you agree or disagree with anything we spoke about today. We'll see you all next time. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.